Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Ebony, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a pattern review on Know Me 2007. All right, so let's get into the pattern specifically. So this pattern is rated as average, and this is what it looks like on the cover. I decided to make view B, which is the shorter version with the 3/4 length sleeves. And then for notions, you're gonna need a 30-inch separating zipper. Obviously that's for the front, and then some lightweight fusible interfacing. And the interfacing is just for where the zipper goes, just to kind of stabilize it so that you don't get that ripple effect down the front. Okay, so the rating is average, right? I kind of agree with that, just for the simple fact of like you having to install a zipper. It can be kind of confusing or maybe a little intimidating for a beginner. So yeah, definitely agree with that average rating. And also this pattern has a front yoke. And I know for me personally, I kind of stayed away from this pattern. I have had it since it came out. It came out in 2022, I believe. But I've just been a little nervous to give it a try just because it has this front yoke and it has this corner here, or like I guess this curved edge here. And so I was a little bit intimidated to try it. And so I finally just decided to give it a chance and just try it, right? And this side, I think this is the side that I did first. It did kind of mess me up a little bit. It bunched like a little bit. To the average person looking, you don't notice, but of course I noticed. But it kind of gave me a little bit of a hard time. And then on this side, once I did this side, it was easier, and this side is more on like a perfect kind of curve here. So I think it's just one of those things where I just have to try and, you know, keep going, and eventually it'll get easier. One thing that I do want to mention is this pattern, again, came out several years ago. So there's a lot of people in the community that have already made this. One person that I wanted to mention, Creativity by T, she made this originally when it first came out. And what she ended up doing was combining the front bodice piece and the yoke piece as one pattern piece. And I really wish that I saw her video before I gave this a try, because I could have did that. I just was really nervous about the yoke too, because this pattern, the print that's on this fabric is super busy. And so I kind of like was nervous that it just wasn't gonna come out good, or it was gonna be too much. And so I would have combined them too if I even saw her video or even thought of that. But overall, I think that it ended up working out. I love how this dress came out. So I think in the end, I still kind of got what I wanted, but I think it would have just been easier. And I would suggest, like, maybe if you're a beginner, just attaching those pieces together and just making them as one piece would kind of be a little bit better. And that way you don't have to worry about connecting this seam, making sure that it's even across the front. Okay, so the fabric that I decided to use was this ITY knit. I think it's an ITY knit, I'm not really sure. But I got it in a fabric bundle that I ordered, or a mystery bundle that I ordered from fabricmart.com. If you saw my previous video, then you saw my reaction to opening that bundle. And this was my favorite that I got out of the entire collection. So I knew that I needed to make something out of this as soon as possible. And with Mother's Day being this weekend, I wanted to make a dress. So this will be my Mother's Day dress. The fabric was pretty easy to work with. I mean, your typical knit, so you need a ballpoint needle or some type of stretch needle, and obviously use a zigzag stitch. And then for the contrast, or like the rib trimming, I ended up ordering some rib trim from Amazon. It was a little bit on the pricey side, I'm not gonna lie. But I think it's worth it. I have like a little scrap here just to show you. It is really thick, it's really high quality. And they don't sell it by the yard, they sell it by, I think 20 or 36 by 48 or something like that. So I ended up just buying 2 packages of it, and it ended up being enough with like a little bit left over for this project. So yeah, I would recommend that. In Kichi B's video, the designer of the pattern, she did explain the difference between like rib knit and then rib trim. So this is rib trim. So it's like that trim that you see on like traditional bomber jackets, like in the store that you can buy. But she did mention that you can use rib knit for this pattern. You would just need to double it so that it still holds its structure and it's not like see-through or anything like that. So that's an option, and that's what I was originally gonna do until I decided, or someone mentioned that rib trim was a thing. So just keep that in mind. As for likes and dislikes of this pattern, like I said in the beginning, as far as like a dislike, I thought I wasn't gonna have a good time with the yoke, and it kind of did trip me up a little bit in the beginning, but overall I like it. I think it came out really nice. In another person's review, or I think honestly just about all the reviews that I've seen, they mentioned that the pocket bags sit kind of low, and so I did take that into account. However, I ultimately decided to keep them in the same position just because I have really long arms, and so most cases pocket bags are too high for me, and so I decided to just keep them where they are, and it ended up working out. I like the position that the pockets are in, so in the future, I won't be making that modification. But if you're shorter than me or have shorter arms, I'm 5'11" for reference, you may want to raise the pockets a little bit higher because they do sit a little low on the hip. As for likes about this pattern, I love that it's like a bomber dress or a bomber jacket dress. I had never seen anything like this in the stores, and so I think it is just really cool to add to my wardrobe. I had a really good time making this pattern. It took me maybe about 8 hours, so I think it's kind of like a weekend sewing project that anybody can do. The pattern's rated as average, so I don't think that this is super beginner friendly, just because you do have to install a zipper, and the neckline can kind of be a little tricky installing this ribbing around the neck. But I think for sure an advanced beginner or intermediate sewers can definitely make this. And I think even if you are a beginner, the sew along for this is super easy and informative, and she takes her time going through it. So I think a beginner can do this too. You just have to be patient. So yeah. Also, I did want to mention the reason why it took me about 8 hours to make this is just because I'm at a point now where I want my garments to last longer. I want the outside to look good, and I also want the inside to look good. And that's not something that I usually kind of take the time to do. So throughout this entire sewing process, I did take the time out to press my seams. I took the time to serge. I took my time with like sewing and making sure that the lines were straight and my seam allowance wasn't messed up and it was even all around. So that's just something also that I wanted to point out. If you make this, it could take you less than 8 hours, but it did take me about 8 hours just because I was taking my time and kind of like pressing as I go and doing that serging. All right, so that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I love this dress. I hope that you guys feel the same. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If this is your first time watching and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope that you consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me. And I will see you guys in my next upload. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.